Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Escondido City Council. Please rise for a moment of reflection and remain standing for the flag salute.
Yes, please join me in a moment of reflection. We come together tonight to say thank you. Thank you for the privilege, the blessing, the honor it is to serve here in the city of Escondido. We come together tonight as a diverse community, a community of backgrounds, different beliefs, different presents, and different futures, yet one common goal, and that is the betterment of this city. We come together tonight to seek guidance, wisdom, and discernment during deliberations that transpire this evening. In doing so, we lift up Councilmember Martinez, Councilmember Christian Garcia, Councilmember Fitzgerald, Deputy Mayor Joe Garcia, and Mayor White. May they be granted peace and wisdom as they lead our city into a bright and prosperous future. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is now called to order. Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Present.
Councilman Christian Garcia.
Here.
Councilwoman Martinez.
Present.
And Deputy Mayor Joe Garcia.
Present.
And I, Mayor White, am here. Do we have a report out of closed session this evening?
Very briefly, item 1A is being continued to a new date to be set and agendized, and no further public comment. Thank you.
Non-agenda public comments.
Yes, our first speaker is Melissa Petrie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City staff. My name is Melissa Petrie, and I'm here again to speak with you. Over the last several weeks, I've been reviewing records produced by the city regarding the proposed development at Kit Carson Park. Tonight, I simply have 3 questions. These are rhetorical. I know you cannot answer. First, the MOU has repeatedly been described as exploratory, yet records show that by December 22nd, 2022, professional architectural firm had already evaluated 7 potential locations within Kit Carson Park for this project. So if the MOU is exploratory phase, when did the exploration actually begin? And why wasn't the public included then? Second, the city has stated that other locations were considered, yet the professional site assessment we've received evaluates 7 sites, and all 7 are within Kit Carson Park. What locations outside of Kit Carson Park were actually evaluated, and where is that analysis? And third, the records show outside parties associated with the proposed project contributing information and language during development of materials are presented to council as the staff report. What role did those organizations have in shaping the information presented to council and the public, and what independent review did the city conduct? These are questions raised by the city's own records. I think the public deserves clear answers. Also, I support the Costco development and the Heritage Park project. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Casey Van Lock.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Casey Van Lant, and I'm a realtor representing a seller with a deed-restricted property here in Escondido. I'm here this evening to speak with you regarding the City of Escondido's affordable housing program, deed-restricted properties, and the roadblocks and red tape I have encountered while trying to navigate the sale of this home. The purpose of affordable housing should be to help qualified individuals become homeowners. But when a program creates so many restrictions that a home cannot realistically be sold, even when there are interested buyers, I think it's important to ask whether the program is truly accomplishing its goals. When a home is restricted to a limited pool of buyers, but those buyers cannot qualify because the program's requirements are more restrictive than lending requirements, how is this helping people become homeowners? If affordable housing programs are meant to create opportunities, they must be realistic about today's housing market. Interest rates, insurance, HOA dues, and home prices have changed dramatically. A rigid affordability calculation that may have worked years ago becomes a barrier in today's current market. I would like for you to take a look at the affordable housing program along with the underwriting criteria the city sets forth when approving or denying a buyer. Programs should be evaluated not just by their intentions, but by their results. If the city truly wants to preserve affordable home ownership, then there needs to be some flexibility when the facts clearly support it. I'm asking the City Council to take a closer look at this program, its current underwriting standards, and whether they are actually helping qualified buyers become homeowners in today's market. Thank you.
No further public comments on oral communication.
All right, consent calendar. Has anything been pulled from tonight's consent calendar?
Nothing from the public.
All right, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve items 1 through 4 as the consent calendar. Motion and second. If there's no other questions or comments, please vote.
Yes, voting on your iPads. Motion approved, 5-0.
All right, we'll go on to the first item of current business tonight is number 5, the ground lease between the City of Escondido and Costco Wholesale Corporation.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Chris McKinney. I am one of the Deputy City Managers here for the City of Escondido. As the Mayor's already mentioned, I'm here to present to you the proposed ground lease with Costco Wholesale Corporation. So before you tonight for your consideration is resolution number 2026-139. This resolution would authorize the mayor or other designated staff to execute a ground lease agreement for parcel 1 of the North County Mall and other related documents. For clarity, parcel 1 is the currently vacant former Sears site at the mall. The proposed lessee, as we've already stated, is Costco Wholesale Corporation, which I'll refer to as Costco from here on out. And I want to stress from the beginning that this is a conditional lease. Even if we enter into the lease agreement with Costco, Costco must still complete the entitlement process, including an environmental review of the project. The North County Mall is, I think as most of us know, located in southern Escondido, just off the East Villa Rancho Parkway exit of Interstate 15. It is almost entirely city-owned, with 7 of the 8 parcels that comprise the site being owned by the city, the only exception being the Macy's box and some of the surrounding parking field. Of interest for this presentation is parcel 1, which you can see on the diagram with the larger green circle labeled 1. As I said earlier, that's the old Sears store. It is currently leased by the city to Transform Operating Stores, LLC, also known as Transformco. They are the successor in interest to Sears, and their lease runs through 2041 at an annual rent of $98,000. Previously, the City Council adopted Resolution 2022-94. The City Council did that in June of 2022. That authorized an amendment to the ground lease for Parcel 1, and that lease, or that amendment, was contingent on the lease being assigned from Transformco and assumed by Costco. Unfortunately, at that time, the assignment and assumption agreement was never completed between Transformco and Costco, and so resolution number 2022-94 was rendered moot. I do want to point out that the proposed lease terms of the amendment in 2022 are very similar to the terms proposed now for the new ground lease with Costco. And what are those key terms? The proposed lease includes a base rent of $100,000 per year beginning at the operation of a Costco store, if that should ever occur. No rent would be paid by Costco for the first 36 months after entitlements to allow for a construction period to construct the store. The lease term is a 20-year lease with 7 extension options of 5 years each. With extensions that could total up to 35 years, that means that the total term will not exceed 55 years. There are anticipated significant capital investments to improve the site by constructing a new Costco store. Again, as I've said earlier, pending approval of all entitlements. And Costco is required by the terms of the lease to remediate the gas station that they propose to build at the site when the use is changed. Say, for instance, they decide at some point to close the gas station, or when the lease is terminated. And they must remediate any impacts, for instance, if there happen to be a fuel leak, and they must remove underground tanks at the site. If lease interests are transferred by Costco at any time during the lease term, the city would get 1.25% of that transfer value. And the lease is contingent on termination of the current ground lease of Parcel 1 with Transformco. The next 2 slides, I just want to compare this lease arrangement to, I think, what most of the public and perhaps the council are familiar with and what you think of as a more common lease scenario. More commonly, you might imagine an owner with commercial property that they have available. There's a prospective lessee, could be a restaurant owner, any sort of business owner. And as they're negotiating, the lessee would discover that they are potentially responsible for some tenant improvements at the site. They might have to upgrade the interior to make it amenable to their customers, whatever business they want to run. They might discover that they need a conditional use permit to operate their business. They'll obviously need permits to operate. And then eventually the lessee and the lessor come to terms, and once they come to terms, sign their lease, and the business owner obtains all the necessary permits, they can open their business. I want to describe how the Costco lease scenario is a little bit different, because I don't want people to think that entering into this lease with Costco is anywhere near the end of the process. It's actually kicking off the process with Costco. As it shows here, this property that's owned by the city, Parcel 1 at the mall, is already leased to Transformco. So we would need an agreement from Costco to terminate. Any costs of that agreement would be paid by Costco. Then we enter into the new lease with Costco. Then Costco could, with that lease, apply through our development review process, which would include an environmental review, and that environmental review would include a study of traffic impacts. Those costs would all be paid by Costco. And then at the end of that review process, if the project were not approved, or even if it were approved and Costco simply decided not to move forward with the project for whatever reason, the city would have the option to terminate the lease at that point. Now, if we imagine the scenario where after the development review process, the lease or the development is approved, at that point, Costco would be authorized to begin actual work at the site. Costco would need to demo the site. They don't intend to use the existing Sears box. I don't think that's compatible with what they envision as a Costco store. And after demoing the site, preparing it for construction, Costco would then build a store, possibly a gas station, possibly a car wash, depending on what they propose and what they get approved to do in the development review process. All of these costs would be paid by Costco, so they would be investing significantly in the site. And then once all of that's done, Costco would be ready to open its store. Some other considerations for the council and the public to think about are projected financial benefits of a Costco store in southern Escondido. Projections are for greater than $2 million in annual sales tax revenue. That would obviously be after the store was operating and Costco was earning revenue, selling their goods. And we also expect that there would be 300 jobs created at the store. The California Department of Housing and Community Development has concurred with the city's determination that this lease is not a disposition of surplus land. That's important because now it's not subject to the Surplus Lands Act. And I've been emphasizing throughout the presentation, but it bears emphasis. Resolution 2026-139 has no effect on the city's planning commission or city council's future decisions in their review of entitlements to allow for the construction of any improvements on the former Sears site. It will still go through the usual process. And before they can begin construction, Costco needs to complete that process. This store would be a very significant economic driver and city revenue driver if it's completed. A Costco would diversify the city's sales tax base. For comparison, the anticipated sales tax revenue, and this is just talking about what's coming to the city. It's not considering the broader economic impact. But it would represent nearly half of the tax revenue that we receive from the auto park. So it's like putting a facility in that brings in half the revenue that the auto park brings in. It's comparable to, less than, but still comparable to the revenue we receive from economic activities downtown. And it's more than the tax revenue received presently from the rest of the mall site. One additional benefit that I should mention here, because I referenced the rest of the mall, we expect that with more traffic from a Costco store, many of the patrons of the Costco store would be likely to visit other stores at the mall site. So in addition to seeing sales tax from Costco, we would expect to see an increase in sales tax revenue and general economic activity at the mall site. And I said it earlier, but I'll repeat it. This lease is the first step, not the last. There was a question from the public about why are you starting with the lease before any environmental review or any of that work has been done, which is a legitimate question. And the reason is that for anyone to apply to develop or to submit to the city to develop a property, they need to have an interest in that property. They need to either own the property or have leased the property, have some ability, some right to use that property. And this lease would give Costco that right and would allow them to begin the development process. And with that, the staff recommendation is that you adopt Resolution 2026-139, authorizing the mayor and/or authorized officers to execute a lease agreement and related documents for the lease term I described earlier with Costco Wholesale for Parcel 1 at the North County Mall. And I am available for your questions.
Thank you. We'll go to public comment first.
Yes, we have one speaker, Greg Oliver.
Good evening, Council. My name is Greg Oliver. I'm here to talk about Costco. First of all, let me say I'm a big fan of Costco, and I hope we do get the store. What I wanted to say was that in the terms of the agreement indicate that there's a 3-year period before they actually have to decide to start building. That is 3 years where we won't be receiving $98,000 a year in rent. And at the end, if they choose not to do anything, they have tied up the land for 3 years and we didn't get $300,000. So I would think that maybe there should be some term in there that if they choose to back out at the end, that there would be some kind of penalty to compensate for the $300,000 we didn't earn. The other thing is that we, as it was pointed out by Chris, that there's approximately 300 jobs there. There's no binding covenant that requires local labor hiring, union scale construction wages for the construction period, or living wage guarantees for the projected 300 retail staff members. So if there were some covenants in there that allowed preferential treatment to Escondido residents for hiring when all things were considered equal, then that would be good for the people of Escondido. Other than that, go Costco.
No further public comments.
All right, City Council? Comments? Questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to address, could we go back to slide 7 again, please?
I'm sorry, Councilmember, did you say slide 7?
Yes, slide
Okay, 7. Sorry.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate you showing the scenario as to how this lease is different from the regular lease. One of the common questions that was, I've been asked, and I'm sure my colleagues have been asked, was on the $98,000 or $100,000 a year lease, and which is something that I was looking at too. One thing that I just wanted to say from the dais is that you have to understand that the Transformco has been hanging on to this property, and it's been vacant for years. So it's one of those decisions that we felt needed to be made, I think, when it started back even before Measure I, in order to get just an anchor store at the mall, which is significant. So I think Costco is going to be the one thing that's going to transform the mall. So just for anybody that was asking about why we're not leasing it at the fair market value price, it's because of that. We don't want to risk losing an opportunity like this to come to Escondido. So I think this is a great opportunity. And so the 3 years that they may not pay, I don't think it's, I don't disagree with you, Mr. Oliver, on what you said, but I think in the long run, what it's going to bring, not just in tax revenue and jobs, but also other high-end stores, well-known department stores to the mall, and which is really going to be beneficial. So I motion to approve this.
We've been waiting for a long time. A lot of rumors running around about Costco, and I kept on hearing it was the worst kept secret in Escondido. And we're here, finally here. There's a lot of great things. I think some questions that were raised right now I think are valid, so we should look into them. But other than that, I'm in support, and I think this will be something that will be very good for Escondido. Thank you.
I'm excited that this has finally made it to our agenda. There was a time when we thought, Costco was gone, and we're just happy to have them back at the table. And I appreciate the comments. I do see this as holistically an overall benefit, and where the pros, outweigh the, the rents that we're paying and that 3-year. Really good points, and I agree with you. I do believe that this project will get done, so I don't have any hesitation whatsoever that in 3 years we won't have this built. So, and I would love for Costco to take over that lease, because Transformco really, their method of product is really to their land holdings company, so that they just hold on to land. They're not doing anything with it, and we need our land to be activated. So, and I love Costco. I've been a member for decades. And one thing that I appreciate about Costco is that they already pay above minimum wage, and they care very much about their employees. Costco once was Price Club, if you all remember that, and we have Price Philanthropies that's invested a lot in San Diego and done amazing philanthropy. So I just have great things to say about Costco, and I'm excited that I won't have to go to another city, and that we can keep those tax dollars in Escondido. So I will also be supporting the proposed lease agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. I love Costco. I'm a customer. I'm glad they're coming to Escondido. The $2 million a year is something we will definitely benefit from for decades and decades. I, on the other hand, I'm going to respectfully disagree with my colleague on the rent. I do feel like we could have gotten much more, and that this deal is very one-sided. And to some extent, this was negotiated in large part before this city council, and kind of from a position of weakness. We didn't have Measure I. We needed that vacancy filled, and not to say we don't need it now, we do. I just do think we definitely could have gotten more. And I'm disappointed with that, but I'm happy Costco's coming, and I will support this. And if there's no other questions or comments, please vote.
Voting is open.
Oh, shoot. Just kidding, I fixed it.
Perfect. Motion approved, 5-0.
All right, thank you. On to item number 6, which is a resolution approving an MOU between the City of Escondido and Love Esco.
Mr. Mayor, I need to recuse myself from this item. I received a contribution from somebody who's involved in this agenda item, so I'm disclosing and will be recusing myself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you once again, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. I'm Chris McKinney, Deputy City Manager. The Mayor's already mentioned that I'm here to present to you a proposed MOU with Love Esco for development of the Heritage Garden Park. So a brief agenda of my presentation. I'll be describing the proposal by Love Esco for Heritage Garden Park. I'll give a little bit of the history, including a description of an existing adopt-a-lot agreement there, some site history of this city-owned property downtown. I'll review the specifics of the Love Esco proposal, including what Love Esco is asking of the city to go with their proposal. I'll show you some renderings of proposed park amenities, and then finish off with some more description of specific MOU terms and a recommendation. So the MOU under consideration tonight it describes preliminary terms on a future agreement that's expected with Love Esco. And the goal of it is to allow Love Esco to confidently fundraise and apply for grants. You'll see later on in the presentation, they're raising money to donate park facilities to the city. For the city to accept that donation, it will require a later formal action by the city council to accept that donation. So the MOU will, among other things, give Love Esco a sign that the city council supports their concept. It will have been shown to the public, and with that, they can, as I said, confidently fundraise and apply for grants to support their proposed donation. So they are proposing to hire design consultants, pay all the material costs and the construction costs of new park facilities at a city-owned site on the northeast corner of North Juniper and East Grand Avenue. That is a partially developed site already. There's a gazebo at the corner. And they plan to cover the costs of this donation with private fundraising. When the facilities are constructed, they would propose to donate them to the city, and they ask that the city then would maintain the park as part of its normal park maintenance program moving forward. The lot is presently the subject of an adopt-a-lot property use agreement that was entered into by the city with Kevin Grangetto and George Weir. The goal of that adopt-a-lot property use agreement was to create, quote, a community garden and public gathering space. Going way back to the 70s, the site was a gasoline filling station. After the gasoline station closed, The site was monitored by the county's Environmental Health and Quality Department. They closed their monitoring case in 2015 with no further action necessary, as they noted. A Phase 1 environmental review was conducted at the direction of the city. Staff have determined preliminarily that a Phase 2 is not necessary, but Esco, at its cost, has already hired a consultant who developed a soil management plan so that any soil that's excavated during construction, if it moves forward, there would be a plan for how to monitor that soil and appropriately deal with it if there was any contaminant discovered. Here are some renderings provided by Esco showing a new gazebo structure at the site of the existing one. Obviously more planting, some shade structures. You can see a terraced structure, perhaps for events and performances, a fence around the perimeter of the park. So what specifically will Esco be donating? They are proposing to privately fundraise. Right now they're planning a $1.2 million target. That's their cost estimate for how much this will cost. And as I said earlier, these funds will cover design, materials purchase, and construction of the park. All of these activities will be managed by Esco. They will, those aspects won't incur any cost by the city. And then they propose to donate these park facilities to the city. This will be accomplished per the recently adopted donation policy that the council adopted with Resolution 2026-45 earlier this year. And that decision by the council on the donation would be made around the time of the start of construction. If costs exceed $1.2 million, Esco would plan to supplement with additional fundraising and not to request any additional funding from the city. Esco has, as part of this donation proposed some things they would like from the city. They're proposing city maintenance of the park after construction completion. The estimated annual cost to the city to maintain the park going forward would be about $50,000. They are requesting that the city agree to do that for a minimum of 10 years. I also note here that there may be a longer period up to a maximum of 25 years. We'll know at the time that you considered the donation what the time period would be. The reason there's that uncertainty is Esco intends to apply for some grant funding, and the grant funding often comes with some time window. If you use the grant funding to support your project, you have to maintain your project and operate your project for some minimum period of time, and that could be 15, 20, up to 25 years. So obviously the final term will be determined by the requirements of any grant funding that they may receive. Esco is also requesting that the city waive development review fees. That's been estimated by staff to carry about a $20,000 value, and that we expedite review and then finally terminate the adopt a lot agreement once the city is taking over maintenance of the site. And then finally, Esco is requesting that if during the development review the city determines that in fact a Phase 2 environmental review is necessary, that the city would pay the cost of that. You know, that could be as much as $100,000, probably not that much, but it's unknown. Since it's unknown if the review would even need to be done and what the review might need to cover, the cost of that is unknown. Just a few more terms. Esco is required by the MOU, and they understand that this will be incorporated into any final agreement in the future, that they must comply with all applicable laws, including those related to procurement, prevailing wage, and environmental review. And through the MOU, Esco commits to building a public information website, which the city will provide a link to from its website. And they also commit to maintaining engagement with Grand Avenue businesses and residents. Briefly, just for the benefit of the council and the public, what we anticipate, which permits and approvals must be issued by the city before construction can begin. Staff level design review, for instance, site landscaping, obviously building and fire permits for new structures, a grading permit, engineering approval of water infrastructure, and an encroachment permit, which is expected during construction because they will be encroaching on public right-of-way during construction. And then finally, just the anticipated sequence of events. Tonight, the City Council is obviously considering the MOU. Love Esco is aiming for about a 6-month fundraising window and design completion window. Hopefully early in 2027, we'll be bringing forward to the City Council a final agreement that would formally grant access to the site, to Love Esco, and also formally accept the donation that they are proposing. Throughout 2027, we would anticipate that's when construction would occur, and hopefully by early 2028, construction would be complete, the park would be turned over to the city, and that's when the city maintenance commitment would begin, so that would be at least a half year of that maintenance, about $25,000, would be a part of your FY 2028 budget, and then in every budget moving forward after that. Obviously, construction, fundraising and construction carry some uncertainties, so that timeline and the permitting are also uncertainties in this proposed timeline and sequence of events. And I just wanted to make you aware of who the Love Esco leadership team is. They are George and Cynthia Weir, Dustin Stevie, Mark Skovorodko, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and Steve Nelson. And with that, the staff recommendation is that you adopt resolution number 2026-77, authorizing the mayor to execute on the city's behalf the MOU with Love Esco, which lays out the anticipated terms for a future agreement for the donation of a park. With that, I'm here for your questions, and I think that Mark was also, sorry, I'm stealing your thunder, Mayor.
It's okay. The time is yours.
Good evening, Council, and thank you, Chris, for that presentation. My name is Mark Skovorodko, Design Principal at West Pine and resident of Old Escondido. I'm here on behalf of Love Esco to speak to the history of the site and the design intent behind the park improvements that we are proposing. This corner of Grand and Juniper was a vacant gravel lot for several decades, as was mentioned in the presentation. In 2011, a group of citizens began working on a preliminary agreement with the city to adopt the lot and donate materials and labor to turn it into what you see today. The donation we're proposing now via Love Esco is a continuation of that 15 years of citizen-led effort. The push to improve the site started as part of a nonprofit effort to identify sites in our downtown for placemaking projects where a modest investment would lead to an outsized community benefit and economic development impact. Heritage Garden rose to the top of that list due to its location, its low level of daily foot traffic, and its potential to draw people and businesses into our downtown. The site programming strategy came from our study of the city's latest economic development strategy, the 2023 SEDS, and was validated by on-the-ground conversations with residents, business owners, and nonprofit stakeholders. As just presented by staff, the site includes a playground with both age 2 to 5 and age 5 to 12 features, coupled with a community patio and food and beverage kiosk to serve as an amenity for all residents of all ages, whether high schoolers nearby, college students studying in our downtown, or senior citizens living at any of the senior facilities nearby. The deck itself is designed for movable furniture, creating a hardscaped level surface that can host live music, art showcases, and other community events. The existing planters would retain all of the existing healthy, mature trees, with the addition of a minimum of 3 new canopy shade trees intended to grow into providing plenty of shade cover, and native low water plantings such as California fuchsia, black sage, and California buckwheat. The SEDS that I mentioned earlier emerged out of extensive community outreach performed in 2022 and 2023, including 9 community meetings, surveys in both English and Spanish, and individual meetings with stakeholders by the city's consultant, Beacon Consulting. The report outlines the creation of a downtown destination district as one of its key goals, with the intention of drawing residents and visitors into our downtown. And it also identifies a need for Escondido to attract young families to the area in order to diversify its economics, grow its workforce, and ensure long-term viability for Escondido. We believe this project will raise downtown's profile, help Escondido retain and attract families, and bring more customers to downtown businesses. Since early in the project, we've worked to get community input on the design. We ran a focus group in early 2024 to hear directly about park and playground needs. Features like the shade structures and trees, the baby and toddler swings, rubber play surfacing, and the food and beverage kiosk came out of our focus group feedback. And we've also presented at several neighborhood meetings in the Mitchell Room, as well as organizations like Rotary and Kiwanis over the past 2 years to collect additional feedback from the community, and plan to continue in-person meetings with community members aided by the support of local business organizations if this project moves forward. Lastly, we have a feedback page live on our website. At staff's request, we've held off on any social media campaigns promoting that website while the city evaluates the proposed donation, but we're ready to share it broadly with the public if the MOU is approved. And we also see our city staff as a key stakeholder, and we have worked with 3 different playground companies over the past 2.5 years to land on a design and a supplier that meets Public Works' internal requirements, while also delivering a nature-inspired playground with as much play value as is possible on a site this size. If council approves the MOU tonight, our next steps are continuing our community outreach to solicit more feedback and fundraising a preliminary round of funding covering surveying, geotechnical, civil engineering, architecture, and project management costs. The project team is available for any questions from council. Thank you for considering this donation, and looking forward to your questions and comments.
Thank you, sir. Public comments?
Yes, we have a few. Our first speaker is Chris Motes.
Hi, my name is Chris Motes. Thank you for having me tonight. Speak in front of you about this issue. I run the Escondido Certified Farmers Market, and I work side by this park every week. And we use the facilities in the park to host vendors and also buskers. So I think that if Love Escondido wants to love Escondido even more and create something like this, great. But I never heard about this, and as far as I know, none of the other businesses around the park have heard about it or seen the design, or none of the people from Love Escondido reached out to us. I do have a couple of concerns about the structures in the park, some of the design aspects of it. It seems like it's kind of one-sided, and that maybe it doesn't have that town square feel that maybe we're looking for in Escondido. Every great town has a town square. New tree canopies would be great, reduce the heat downtown, make it more inviting. Turning the gazebo into a kiosk might not be the best idea. And I realize this isn't really the agenda item, which is the MOU, but maybe perhaps going forward, you can consider putting that into the agreement, that maybe Love Escondido does a little bit more outreach, or maybe consider getting a committee of businesses in that kind of Four Corners area, Heritage Garden. It's going to have a huge impact on our business. We rely on the Escondido Farmers Market for our funding at the Escondido Arts Partnership, who operates it. We're the nonprofit art facility that's there on Juniper and Grand. We've been there since 2008. So we see all the changes that have gone on in Escondido as positive. This one, though, perhaps might be a little bit too much. You know, I talked with George Weir, and he said that this whole process was to activate the park so that the city could kind of take over the maintenance of it. I see a lot of those structures perhaps needing more maintenance than you may think they do. So maybe just kind of tone it down a bit. Let us have the gazebo, let the community have the gazebo as a space for bands and community meetings. I mean, we have our Christmas tree there every year. We've had Halloween costume contests in there. We have Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month in there, free art workshops for kids. JP Catholic students were over there filming the other day. I had a bunch of teens playing music impromptu during the farm.
Thank you, Chris. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Carol Rogers.
Good evening. This may sound a little bit like an echo after Chris. First, I want to thank Love Esco for proposing these improvements, and I want to say thank you to George Ware and the rest of the group that brought us Heritage Garden to begin with. I appreciate their commitment to the property and to downtown Escondido. I do understand that tonight we're talking about an MOU that will allow for further investigation. Heritage Garden is a very important part of the fabric of downtown Escondido. It has been a public gathering space for years. The farmers market, Cruising Grand, Art in the Garden. We've recently started doing free music on the second Saturday of every month. And it's going to take us a little while to get traction, but I know that that's going to be very popular. So these are established uses that bring people into the park and onto Grand Avenue. I agree that the park needs improvement. The lack of shade is a real problem. Better shade, seating, landscaping, lighting would make it far more comfortable and inviting. But I question whether we want to give up the flexibility of this space to accomplish that. And I especially want to talk about the gazebo. This proposal would turn the gazebo into a concession stand. We have Manzanita Coffee directly across. We have Tony Pepperoni, 7-Eleven, Mexican restaurant, Kitty Corner, Best Pizza and Brew directly behind it, and another coffee shop about 3 doors down east. If our goal is to support downtown businesses, why would we put a food and beverage operation in the park? The gazebo is a natural stage, you've heard already. We rely on that stage for a music venue for many events. It's used for community activities, and it becomes home to a Christmas tree during the holidays. People look forward to that Christmas tree. So I'm not opposed to improving Heritage Garden, but my request to council is really pretty simple. Please don't replace what's already working. Let's improve what isn't. Heritage Garden is one of downtown's few flexible public gathering spaces in downtown. Let's invest in making it better while preserving that flexibility for the community, for downtown businesses, and for the events that have made this space successful for years. And I just want to point out, I know that we have Maple Street Plaza, but that will be impacted by the Maple construction. So it's one more reason why we have to preserve this space. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Louisa Magoon.
Hello, Council. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. My name is Louisa Magoon. I own the Grand Tea Room. I'm on the board for the Downtown Business Association, Esco Alley Art, so I'm very invested in our downtown. Looking at the plans for this specific project, they're absolutely beautiful, and that's not the problem at all, but unfortunately, they don't meet the needs of our downtown. We already have a park, Grape Day Park, so maybe we can improve that and have some children activities there. Heritage Garden is used for many more things than a park. It's used for events, including the 2 street festivals, Art and Culture Creativity, and Art in the Garden. Over 40 artists participate in Art in the Garden, and there would be no place for them to go to have that event. The DBA also has Small Business Saturday in November, of course, the Farmers Market, Cruising Grand, and again, like Carol said, you know, Lot 1 is going to take over the Maple Street Plaza. So where do we hold special events? Another concern is there's no plan for any restrooms. And the restaurants downtown are not going to want people to come and use your restroom. I have personal experience with that when I try to take my grandson to one of the restaurants downtown, and it's for customers only, and it doesn't matter if you're a long-term customer and they know who you are. So they really don't want people to use their restrooms. So those are my thoughts, and I hope they're taken into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sabrina Covington.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. My name is Sabrina Covington, and I would like to speak in support of the Heritage Park project. As someone who's very active on Grand Avenue, and I speak with a lot of business owners there in the arena of general interest in sales and leasing, I have not heard any negative comments from business owners in my dealings regarding the park. I do think it would be a great improvement. I don't think there's enough to do on Grand Avenue other than eat. You can only walk up and down Grand Avenue so much, I know, because I do it a lot. So I do think the restroom issue is something to be looked at, but in general, I would like to speak in support of the project. This week, I actively sent a grant opportunity to the developers for additional funds, and I think it would make a great addition. I think it would complement our children's museum and become very family forward. We have there's only 2 children's museums in the county. So I know from personal dealings that we attract people from all over several counties to that children's museum. And I've had an issue with the fact that we're just letting those people go back home. So I know that because I'm on the generosity committee for the Children's Museum, and my daughter worked there. So I know she would tell me when people would walk in, they didn't even know where they were. They didn't even know what city they were in, because they're harebrained parents that just type in Children's Museum to their GPS. So I'd like to really retain those people and expose them to more of Escondido. You can only stay in a museum so long, and if they have a park to go to, they're going to get hungry and thirsty. And I do think we need more small bites on Grand rather than so many sit-down meals. They can become quite expensive for families. So thank you for your time.
No further public comments.
All right, thank you. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and it's exciting that it is here. I'm going to keep my comments brief. I do support this, but I just want to note some of the things that we heard tonight. It doesn't sound like anybody is opposed to an actual play structure park going in, but it sounds like there are some things that space has been working for, and we don't want to lose that. And I want to make just one small amendment to the MOU, and it's in section 2A, and the last sentence says, as part of the community engagement and as part of the community engagement and fundraising effort, Love Esco will build a public information website and maintain engagement with Grand Avenue businesses and residents, and consider the input from the Downtown Business Association, is what I would like to add to that. And that would be my motion, to approve with that amendment. All right, and I'll open it up for discussion to everybody else.
Thank you. I think this is, thank you everyone who spoke on this, and I'm excited that it's finally before us. I did have an opportunity to sit down and speak to Mark and George Weir at the same time, and again separately. And this is very needed, because what we're trying to attract are the young families, and we are seeing them out there with the kids and the strollers, and providing a space for them to have a playground is really meaningful. So I just, first off, I just want to say I appreciate the generosity and just the heart for giving so much of your time, talent, and treasure to projects like this. Mark going and looking at other cities and what they do that, would fit, that are very similar to what Escondido has to offer. And also, it's not just a park, but it's also going to be one of the attractions, another attraction downtown. I did agree with the comments about the gazebo having a little kiosk there. We want those families to get hungry and go to the restaurants. Let's go eat downtown. And then also the concern about the restrooms. I was thinking park kids, where are the restrooms? And along the same lines that restaurants do not want to be having people come in and out that are not patrons. But I think this is beautiful renderings. I think there's going to be opportunity, again, to work together with the community. I love the community outreach, website, input, and because what I have seen out there was, just cool spaces. Is there going to be enough shade? And I think it brings so much value to our city, and I definitely support this. For us to be able to support this because of just bringing more quality, I guess, of life, of living to those that are about Grand Avenue and Old Escondido. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much. I do have questions for Love Esco, so I don't know who's going to be your spokesperson tonight, but if you can have them come up, that would be great. Thank you. Hi there. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, I'm Steve Nelson, 33-year resident of the community, former city employee, and downtown business owner.
Okay, great.
Glad to be here.
Thank you,
all
Steve.
for considering our project. Also, I represent Love Esco in the capacity of one of its founding board members. I'm not currently on the board, but as you can probably tell from the presentation Chris gave you, there's a number of interrelated relationships that have gone into this. So we're all connected.
Thank you so much. And I want to ask some questions just about Love Esco in general, in case the public has not heard of you guys. But I will say that since you all started Love Esco during, while I've been on the city council, and it has really been a pleasure working with you all. I think the beginning of Love Esco was you all joined a community cleanup I had at El Norte Park. And there was like 50 of you. So anyways, I just want to say I appreciate your partnership and all that you do for our city. I love Love Esco Day. And there's just been a lot of good that has come out of Love Esco. And I've met some of you. I know there's a lot of you. So just for informational purposes, you are a 501. Love Esco is a 501c3. Does it have its board? How many boards? And do you have are you a member organization? Do you have members? And if so, how many members?
It's a California nonprofit corporation, also with federal and state charitable approvals for charitable donations, 501c3, et cetera. And there's 5 board members. And they've changed over the last, several years since we've started. But there's always been 5 board members.
Okay. Do you have any staff?
There are staff that assist. They're basically part-time staff that help to put on the projects and the events, and they do the lion's share of the work that you see happening with Love Esco, both in projects and in promotion and social media.
Awesome. And then who in your organization would you say, I heard you speaking about applying for grants. Who in your organization has grant writing expertise?
The staff has some grant writing expertise. On
Okay.
a couple of the grants that we've applied for in the past, we've done outreach with local consultants who've helped us.
Okay, so
try
you've
to-
partnered with professional consultants to do grant
Absolutely,
writing? Okay, and then what about project management? Who would, if this was to go through, who in your organization would be specific for this project?
Right.
And, being the lead contact for Love Esco?
Right. There's essentially three different pieces of the budget that's required for the project. The first is in the design phase. There'll be professionals paid to continue the design process and to interact with the city about all the city approvals. And then there'll be a project management and construction management. That phase starts early, also professionals. So money will be fundraised in order to support those companies or individuals to do the work. And then finally, the construction phase. And in all aspects, there'll be transparent financials provided back to the donors so they can see everything the money's been spent on.
Who's going to be the liaison to the donors for your organization?
You mean which person?
Yes.
I don't know right now.
Okay, what about dealing with the design consultants and the project and construction? Who would be the point person in your organization that would facilitate those relationships?
Well, as part of the consulting relationship, Mark, who spoke earlier, would take the lead initially on
Okay.
the project coordination.
Got it, thank you. So I met with, thank you so much, you might want to stay up there, Steve. So I will say I had heard about Heritage Park. So, when I am downtown, I do appreciate that being not an empty lot, that we have a space. I do see that it's used a lot for flexible gathering spaces, and I do love when it's used. So I just want to thank all the organizations that do activate that space. I know initially the plan was for it to become a community garden and community garden. What kind of happened? Why is it not a community garden? Does someone have the history of why that didn't happen that could share?
I could give you my best guess. I mean, I was part of the Adopt-A-Lot agreement and the drafting of 4 or 5 of those around the city before I left working for the city. And this agreement came a couple years after I left, but it was identical. And the concept was to try to activate it in some way and to get somebody to volunteer their time to do that.
Okay.
And at that time, George and Cynthia Weir and Kevin and Martha Granchetto took the lead, but they really recruited an entire village of local businesses and people to come out and do the work. So all the block work, all the trees, all the irrigation that you see were initially done with a plan to just get it started. And then after that point, I don't think it's ever become part of the council work program to try to do anything different with it.
Okay.
To make it better, to improve it, to
Yeah.
make it a garden. I don't think it's ever been on the council's radar because it served the purpose that they originally created. And it shouldn't go without mention that the park right now does not maintain itself at zero cost. It's something that's been a labor of love for the Weir family, for the Granchettos, and also for a host of public works and street city employees who have come out sometimes on their own time and helped tinker with sprinklers and signals and power and all kinds of different things. So there's been a lot of work that's gone into keeping it the way it is, and I don't think anybody's ever said, why don't we plant everything and make it a
Right.
garden here? But that's certainly something the council could have done over the years.
Okay, thank you for that history, and I do appreciate all the labor and love that people have given to this space. So I did meet maybe a year ago. So Dustin reached out. Hi, Dustin. He reached out to me on behalf of your group and said, hey, we have this idea to bring, activate this space and have, playgrounds and all those kind of things. So he and I did speak once about a year ago, right? And, I thought that was a great idea, but I will say I did provide feedback since it's a city-owned space, I wanted him to do a lot. I said, hey, you need to go back out and get a lot of community engagement because I don't believe 5 people should decide what should go in a space. So I really need you to go do your homework. And in fact, I'm glad Chris Smotes called because I was trying to call her today, but the museum's closed and I don't have a personal cell phone number. But I wanted to be like, did Dustin ever follow up with the advice that I give him? Did he call Chris Smotes? So I will say I'm disappointed that she's saying that no one reached out to her. Because, that is like the number one first person I would have, if I was in your shoes, I would have gone to because they use that space. They're literally next door. So I'm disappointed that you didn't do that. And that, to me, that's like the lowest hanging fruit that you could have picked. So they, and one of the things that I said was, it's described here as a citizen-led project, but I want it to be a community-led project. I don't want it to be a citizen-led, like 5 people or a few organizations. I want this to be a community-led project. I want to make sure that not just the downtown, but people who go downtown. I don't live downtown, but I go downtown all the time. I want to make sure that all of Escondido gets to give input into this asset, this city-owned asset. We owe it to them. And so I would say that there's still a lot of work to do. I do agree having things for small children to do would be great. But I do think that you kind of went, the proposal looks here, but I feel like we got to go back here a little bit to get more input. For example, one of the conversations I had with you, Dustin, was, make sure you talk to Chris at the Municipal Gallery because they have the farmer's market there and there's nowhere to sit. Sometimes I want to buy food there, but I have to go somewhere else, and so I don't have time to go home and eat. I want to eat at the farmer's market, and then I want to go run my errand after work, right? But there isn't really tables where you can sit, and I thought, wouldn't it be awesome if we could have some benches at Heritage Garden Park so that someone can buy farmer's market food and sit and have their coffee from Manzanita. Maybe they want to sit outside and there's limited, so just things that I feel are very simple ways that don't require money or very little investment to show excitement, enthusiasm, and support for this project. And so it's been a year, and I haven't heard, I haven't heard from anyone from Love Esco for about a year since I met with Dustin. So I feel like, you just kind of, it went, I don't know what happened, and you're more than welcome to come respond on kind of what's transpired since then, or maybe why you didn't. But, for me, and I think you all know this because I've been on the council for almost 8 years, for anything that is requiring money from the city and investment, which I believe it will be more than $50,000 a year, by the way. I think that's a very low prediction of what this would cost to maintain. I feel like we have to cast a wider net when it comes to support for this project and input. So I do support us activating this and exploring more amenities for families to use this space, but for it to be a partnership with the downtown businesses, with other organizations, and to show diversity of participation of our residents. We have a very diverse population of our residents, and so I'd like to see their voices also shown in the design of this. So I think there's some more work to do. I'd like to see what the community engagement piece is going to be before I would say yes to an MOU. Otherwise, for me, I would just say, let the city do it. Because I know our city knows how to, engage the community. We have a process already in place. We have project managers. So so if we're going to entrust, Love Esco, and I have nothing bad to say about Love Esco because you all do amazing work. I'm just saying for something like this is new for Love Esco to take on a project like this. This is new. It's kind of out of your wheelhouse. And I want to make sure that we're engaging the entire community and that we're not just proposing amenities that folks haven't, I don't even know where these ideas came from. I don't know which businesses you talk to. You haven't said anything to me about who you've talked to. And when I hear that the person next door has not heard about this, that's a red flag for me. So I say, let's continue the conversation. My proposal is let's continue the conversation. I'd like to see what your community engagement plan is, how you plan to reach the community, how you will actually consider input. Are you even interested in really what the community has to say, or are you kind of set on having these things? I also believe that we shouldn't be bringing any kind of food business to this area when our food businesses are struggling. So I would not support having any kind of concession stand here at this time. And I don't know that all the other businesses would support that, because I do want people going to Manzanita to get their coffee, right? Or wherever it is that they want to get their muffin and things like that. So might not be what you wanted to hear, but I think there's more work to do here. So at this moment, again, I do support us moving forward in the future and considering something, but I need some more homework on your part to know that you take community input seriously and that you are going to engage people who actively use that space. And I want to know who you're talking to. And again, that information was not provided tonight. So I will not be supporting the MOU at this time.
Did we get a motion?
There's a motion and a second already.
There's a motion and a second.
Motion and a
If there are no
second
other
already.
comments, please vote. Oh, shoot. Okay, this time I really did mess up.
Okay. You can redo it.
There we go. I think I got it.
Yes, motion approved, 3-1, Martinez, no.
All right, thank you, everybody. On to the workshop, which is the Escondido 2040 General Plan Update. We'll wait for the deputy mayor to come back.
I'm going to take a little break.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Just, well, maybe from the council members. From the council members, yeah.
What we should have done is gotten moon rings for everyone.
All right, we will reconvene this meeting and move on to our workshop, item 7, which is the Escondido 2040 General Plan Update.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor White, Deputy Mayor, and Council. My name is Garrett Smith, City Planner with the Development Services Department. I'm here tonight with Sally Shipman, Principal Planner heading up our long-range planning staff, as well as Joel Svetko and Priscilla Rowland to my right, also with the long-range planning team. What we'd like to do tonight under the workshop is provide a presentation on what's been identified as Escondido 2040. In the agenda item, you'll see is identified as a general plan update. That terminology was used just for brevity's sake. It is actually quite a bit more, and we're going to get into it with the presentation. But before we do that, I just wanted to express for the department our sincere appreciation of City Manager's Office and Council for supporting this effort. This is an endeavor that's going to span the next approximately 2-year period, and really is going to be touching upon some foundational work that needs to be done for the city. So to that, again, I definitely appreciate it on behalf of the department itself. Before we get into the presentation, I want to provide a little bit of clarity. As I mentioned, the Escondido 2040 program really is an effort to update various structural components for the city's foundational policy document. It includes updates of and modernization of a handful of master plans, some strategic updates to the general plan itself, as well as key aspects of certain specific plans. And really that's initial phase that's going to be transitioning into more of the implementation aspects later on, including updates to the zoning code. So really this is a broad-reaching effort sort of with the umbrella, drilling down to implementation and more specific aspects. Really with that, I want to hand the mic over to Sally, who is going to be the project lead, and will provide the presentation and ideally keep this up for some good discussion with council. And in case you've got any questions or feedback, we would love to hear it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Garrett. Good evening. Tonight, I'm going to be walking us through an overview of the envisioned Escondido 2040 program, including touching on why we are where we are and why we should care about this effort. I'll discuss what we can do to address the situation, and we'll talk about leveraging the work that staff has been developing over the last few years, and move into where we are right now with the phase 1 of the program, followed by what staff believes will be kind of the primary and potential future efforts of phase 2 and beyond. And then I'll conclude with a series of questions that are just really there to prompt and facilitate the conversation with council. Tonight marks one of the first steps in a long journey. Our yesterday is not our today, and our today is not our tomorrow. In the past 15 years, housing laws have changed dramatically, infrastructure demands have evolved, and climate resiliency has become a higher priority. Mobility patterns have shifted, technology has transformed how we live and work, and new development techniques and economic trends have emerged. We can only imagine where things may be 15 years from now. We are faced with the need to take our imagined future and plan for the implementation of real measures that are so that we not reactively survive, but proactively thrive in that future. As Garrett stated earlier, this program will be a years-long effort to update the city's foundational policy documents and retool our implementation documents to meet the 21st century needs of our city. To do this, we first need to establish a new baseline and understand what that means for our city moving forward. Through this program, city staff will gather vital and comprehensive data on our infrastructure system. This will include analyzing our water, wastewater, storm drain, open space, and transportation systems in their current state, assessing the future demands based on projected population and development growth, modernizing our core policy documents to reflect our new baseline and projected conditions, and create efficient and feasible implementation programs. We would then look to bridge the gap in phase 2 between the policy and visions and our real-world application of these documents. The program would evolve to examining and refining our supportive policy documents, such as our zoning code, as well as additional specific plans or other types of those documents. This ensures cohesion and consistency in our planning documents, which then leads to clarity for the community. The continuation of the program is then accomplished through implementation. Once we have goals and have identified appropriate steps to take to achieve those goals, we then need to take action. This will be evident through the development permits we process, the capital improvement projects that we undertake, and the changes we begin to see around the city. So fundamentally, why are we here and why should we care? City growth is not a question of if, it's actually a question of how. By undertaking this program, we are given the opportunity to look at ways to protect our quality of life and preserve community character while still supporting housing and job needs. By reestablishing our baselines, we can align our growth with our infrastructure capacity and ultimately focus investments where they create the greatest public value. Many of our foundational policy documents were adopted between 1994 and 2013. This presents a multitude of challenges for applicants and city staff alike. We are frequently working with outdated baseline information or incomplete data. This results in the regular need for workarounds that can slow our work and create uncertainty in the development process. This results in inefficiencies and waste in both time and money. As I stated before, we live in a whole different world today in comparison to what may have been happening when these policy documents were prepared and adopted. We need to align our policies with the priorities of the community and the City Council of today. By re-examining our foundational policy documents, we have an opportunity to integrate broader goals and strategies across all city departments. For instance, we can incorporate economic development priorities, goals, and strategies into our master plans and specific plans. And finally, updating our documents to reflect our city's needs of today and tomorrow will result in a tangible return on investment. These updated plans will better inform the public, staff, and council on important and consequential decisions on infrastructure investments, land use patterns, and housing and business development. So what do we do? Luckily, we're not starting from scratch. The team will be leveraging policy work that has been completed over the last few years to inform the program to the extent feasible. Data collected from documents such as these listed here still hold value, and these goals and action items that are within these plans are relevant and transferable to what we would be undertaking through this Phase 1 program. This is not an exhaustive list of projects to draw from, but we just wanted to give you a snapshot of what some of the large items have been over the last few years. So I'm going to start talking about what is we're calling Phase 1 of this work. We have released a request for proposals, or RFP, laying out the assumed scope of the work that will make up this phase. We anticipate 3 primary focus areas with updates to portions of the general plan, multiple master plans, and specific plans. And the work will also entail some supporting studies. Since it's very likely that people don't know what these documents are, I'm going to just briefly describe each. The city's general plan is our core policy document. This sets citywide, long-term, typically 20 years, sometimes more, vision and policy direction. Master plans provide our baseline data, projected needs, and technical implementation strategies for city infrastructure systems. Specific plans provide place-based implementation strategies for specific geographic areas within the city. And supporting studies are prepared as appropriate or necessary in order to provide topic-specific analysis in support of all of these policy documents. The basics of Phase 1. We have been allocated a budget of $2.25 million through Measure I funds, and we have assumed a schedule of approximately 2 years with an anticipated completion date of July 2028. The RFP that's gone out includes an ambitious and challenging scope of work, including updates, comprehensive updates to 4 master plans, as well as the preparation of 1 new master plan, 2 primary supporting studies, and focused updates to 2 chapters of the general plan, and updates to 2 specific plans. The phase would also require environmental review, and we are expecting a robust and consistent public engagement process throughout. The scope of work for Phase 1 has really been designed around this guiding principle, that future land use should be informed and guided by infrastructure. Foundational city infrastructure will be examined and analyzed, including, again, water, wastewater, and drainage system capacities, our transportation systems, and our parks and community facilities. In addition, in order to help guide the RFP process, staff established this list of Phase 1 objectives. These serve their purpose for the proposal process, but we do recognize that this list may change or evolve as we undergo the public engagement process. However, we do think that these are a valuable starting point and generally reflect many of the current priorities of the City Council, including fostering a business-friendly environment, building trust and accountability, encouraging community and economic development, maintaining sound financial stewardship, and prioritizing public safety. The first step of Phase 1 will entail preparing the master plans. This will include updating our water, wastewater, and parks, trails, and open space plans, updating our drainage plan and incorporating our stormwater system into that plan, and creating a new transportation master plan, which does not currently exist. This is where we will establish our baseline conditions and infrastructure framework. The master plans will assess existing conditions, evaluate future demand, and identify any deficiencies in our systems. And each plan is anticipated to include an investment priorities strategy in order to inform capital improvement planning and support long-term growth decisions. There are 2 primary supporting studies that would be part of this scope of work. One is a residential market feasibility study, and that study would focus on 3 key questions. 1, are there issues or circumstances that may be preventing housing production in the city? What barriers, if any, can be eliminated? And what opportunities should be prioritized? We anticipate this study not only helping inform this phase of the program, but it would also then tee us up to be able to undertake our housing element in a few years when we do go into the next cycle of that update. The downtown parking study will focus on the downtown area and will identify any supply issues and assess how parking management may be affecting usage. This study is also anticipated to review citywide parking regulations to determine if any changes to our parking standards are warranted. While Phase 1 would not include a comprehensive general plan rewrite, we will be focusing on 2 strategic updates to 2 different chapters of the general plan: land use and community form, and mobility and infrastructure. The land use and community form chapter currently examines topics such as housing, jobs, economic development, community character, and fiscal sustainability. And the mobility and infrastructure chapter contains topics such as infrastructure reliability, mobility options, capital planning, and growth management. And this effort will explore ways in which these chapters could or should be updated to better reflect the Escondido of today. In addition, the city has approximately 16 active specific plans throughout the city, and we are going to be undertaking the update of 2 of those plans, the downtown specific plan and the South Center City specific plan. The downtown area is the city's civic center, It is designated as a key housing opportunity area within our housing element. And it's a cultural and entertainment destination, and it's a focus of our economic development efforts. It's important to find ways to balance the housing and economic opportunities of the downtown area with its historic character. And we anticipate this effort will analyze downtown housing and housing feasibility and economic vitality, and would include investigation into opportunities for placemaking, public realm improvements, and ways to attract and retain businesses. It's important to note that economic development staff would be very much included throughout the process for the downtown specific plan update to ensure consistency with any ongoing efforts in updating our comprehensive economic development strategy. And ultimately, staff anticipates robust public engagement, and we envision an updated downtown specific plan that will better serve the area for the foreseeable future. The South Center City Plan is relatively new, having been adopted in 2018, but a key challenge for this area is that it's a growing mixed-use corridor that's still heavily auto-oriented. And so a potential focus of this update would include examining multimodal circulation systems in the area. We would want to revisit pedestrian and bicycle safety, explore access management techniques for driveways and drive-throughs, and we would then determine if any changes in housing needs or economic trends may result in a reevaluation of that specific plan. And again, any updates to that plan would include collaborative public engagement. The phase is expected to be complete in July of 2028. It's a pretty ambitious timeline for this scope. And it's going to require cooperation and collaboration among all stakeholders, both in and outside of City Hall. We are currently in step 0 of this effort, so the RFP has gone out. Proposals are due on September 4th, and we do anticipate contract execution by October with a kickoff to this project in November of this year. Staff has also begun kind of the basics of public engagement. We have this meeting tonight. This is its debut, but we have also established a Your Escondido website for this project, and that is live as of right now, so I'll be putting the website link up in a moment. And we strongly encourage any interested stakeholders, please take a look at the website, reach out to staff with any questions, and be on the lookout for participation opportunities throughout this process. Step 1 is going to begin in the fall. We would begin with the supporting studies and researching and executing on the master plans. This would then roll into the work on the general plan updates, and that would be followed by the specific plan updates, and all of this would be finished with environmental review. We don't know what that would look like quite yet. We're hoping the consulting teams will help us figure that out, and then we will also begin kind of an assessment of what phase 2 would look like, and any sort of implementation planning. Right now, we're looking at 2 primary focus areas for phase 2. First is a zoning code update. While staff regularly undertakes zoning code updates, we anticipate this will result in the need for a more robust update to our zoning code. This might be able to be accomplished through targeted updates, or we may find or recommend that we pursue a comprehensive update to the zoning code, possibly with a development of something like a unified development code. The other item that at this stage staff believes would be warranted in phase 2 would be a citywide historic resource survey. It was determined that by the year 2040, which would be the anticipated closing date of this program, 70% of our housing stock will meet the age criteria for historic evaluation. And this is an example of a potential challenge area that we could get in front of with proper planning. And then other updates are most likely going to be appropriate or recommended, possibly with additional master plans, specific plans, et cetera. So with that, that concludes my description of what we've been doing in the background here in the last few months. But I have some questions to pose to council just to kind of help facilitate the conversation. But staff is here to answer any questions best to our ability and just have a conversation with you.
Thank you. Before we do that, we'll go to public comment.
None.
Okay. Were you going to pose those questions first?
I was,
Okay,
but
go
I
ahead.
can either read them out loud or you can, I'll read them out loud
Yeah.
for the record. So questions to consider, are there additional or specific priorities that staff should explore or evaluate? Are there any specific challenges or opportunities that might need to be addressed? Are there particular policy documents that should be added to phase 2 or that you may already think should be anticipated for added to phase 1 or anticipated for phase 2? And more broadly, philosophically speaking, what would success look like to the council for this phase?
Okay, perfect. Under the focus areas, you had master plans. I know parks was on there, but can we get a timeline for what the parks master plan would be?
Excellent question.
And yeah, it was last done in what, 1999?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So our Parks, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan was initiated in 1990. It was adopted in 1994, and it was most recently updated in 1999. So it is one of our oldest master plans. This is an overarching document. So this particular master plan is intended to serve as a guide in developing a comprehensive and integrated open space system to achieve quality of life standards. So what does that mean? The system generally is made up of a coordinated system of recreational and passive parks. It's both rural and urban trails, and then our open space areas such as Daly Ranch. The document also establishes our acres per person standards based on federal requirements, which are mirrored in our general plan. And it establishes our trail networks as well as our open space conservation plans. We have built off of that we do have a specific plan for Daly Ranch, which is our largest open space area and our conservation bank. So that has been built off of this plan. I've included the link in case anybody would ever like to take a look at it, but it is available through the Planning Department website. So we really have two options at this stage. So one option is we stay the course. We keep the Parks and Trails and Open Space Master Plan as part of the Phase 1 program. This assumed schedule would be that master plan would be complete in approximately 12 months, with the caveat that environmental review would still need to be complete, and we don't know what that looks like yet. Option 2 could be to peel that off and create a separate path in which staff and a consulting team would focus only on the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan. In that case, we could potentially see an expedited schedule of perhaps 6 to 8 months, again with the caveat of environmental review. And we would anticipate additional budget would be required in order to do that. Staff has also brainstormed on some benefits and challenges to this approach for your consideration. Potential benefits, again, we could be looking at an expedited timeline. There is also the potential for more park-specific focused public engagement. So while we will be undertaking robust public engagement for Phase 1, it will cover a multitude of topics and very likely require many topics be discussed at those outreach events. This might be an opportunity to focus those engagement activities. And then we do see some challenges with this approach. It's unknown at this stage because we haven't seen the proposals. We don't know if we would be able to choose from the pool of bidders for this effort. We would maybe need to go out separately. If that was the case, it might delay the kickoff of that, which then in turn eliminates the time savings. We do anticipate that that would require a dedicated team in order to meet that timeline. And then this would create an off-track project process. So we would be looking at, for staff and consulting teams, we're looking at handling this phase 1 program in addition to this, and we may see some bottlenecks in workload overlap, and there may be some redundancy that we find with analysis and data collection. But
With
so
that
those,
bottleneck, would worst case scenario be it turns into 12 months, which was the first option anyways?
most likely, correct.
Okay. Considering this hasn't been done since the year after I was born, I'm all in on option 2.
Yeah, I agree on that. I do have a question, though, since we're looking at expediting. So one big thing that is out there is the rinks at a park. Is there a way to be able to explore like something more specific for?
Well, one of the options council could provide direction to staff in going out and doing, one of the things the community has talked about is this analysis.
Yes, exactly.
On city-owned property.
Mhm.
We could take that through a separate process to answer the question before bringing back any lease agreement. We could answer a question about
Yes.
are there viable other options in city-owned property that would meet that need, and if the council was in general agreement, you're not voting right now, if I heard consensus, we could spin that part of that analysis off on its own separate trajectory, separate from the master
Yes.
planning, because that's not really a master planning conversation. That's a
Okay.
specific site analysis conversation, but I would need to basically hear that the council's was consensus in on where you want to go with the parks master planning process, and then would you want a city-owned property analysis looking at alternatives?
Yes.
Yes,
So-
because, well, number one, I think it's important because I'd like to be able to, people are concerned that we're not transparent enough. I think it's important to bring it here and have those discussions here and see what it is that we have, why it would work or would not work, to make those decisions. But I think expediting that is important because, number one, we need, we're open for those kinds of big opportunities, and we want to be able to find the right space for it and let, the public know what we're looking at, and be transparent with that. And then second of all, I always believe that if there's a lot of delays with big opportunities like this, they might go away. So, I'm hoping we can do that.
So we could separate those two conversations on
Okay.
analysis of city property separate from a parks master planning. But am I hearing general consensus? It would be helpful for me to hear a yes, that that's something you would interested in explore?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes on that, but I have other comments, so I
Yep,
want
yep,
to also get to those. Yeah.
Yep.
And I would just say for me on that topic, yes for the parks, but I'll speak more to other items. But I do think that we shouldn't even consider bringing back the lease agreement until we do look at other potential city sites for the rinks. So that.
Yeah, I think that's what was part of the conversation, that we want to do that prior to the lease, anything having to do with the lease.
That wasn't articulated, so I wanted to make sure
Oh, okay.
that was the case.
So we're in agreement. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that it doesn't come back unless you're exploring other sites. Looks like
Clarifying, is that a general consensus again among the council members?
That's what I understood it to be.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So did I.
I also, if I may, Mayor, I did forget to put this slide up, which includes the website. So it's yourescondido.com/Escondido-2040. So we do encourage the public to go ahead and go check it out.
How does, we received a presentation on the missing middle housing. Does that fall into here somewhere as well?
It would be most likely captured in our residential market feasibility assessment. So we would be looking at all sectors of our housing options and analyzing why or why not this these different types of housing are coming to the city. And if there's anything within our current codes and regulations that may be creating barriers. And so that would be part of that study, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Does anybody else have any questions and comments on this item? And do we need any action other than that agreement?
I do, and I'm just seeing my screen. to
There's
pop
no
up.
action for this particular item,
Okay.
formal action.
But you received clear direction on the rinks lease and exploration?
Just one more comment on what you said, I'm going to write down, that the needs, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands this, and it's important because the needs have shifted, and we need to proactively imagine our future. So I really like that that's where we're at now, and we're not just looking at, you know, the 2, 3, 5 years, but down the road, and we really need to be able to have a lot of flexibility and pivot, and I appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could ask a quick question for staff. Again, we're hearing that council would like to have assessment of, city-owned property and, again, to have that done prior to the rinks coming back. In terms,
I've got it here. I understand.
okay, no, I was just looking for our option 1 or 2. This is actually an option 3. Parallel track, separate from this. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I had to change seats because my screen disappeared, but can we go to slide, I think it was 5? Okay, so here I wanted to just make a comment on how, because, we're doing community outreach. There are a lot of different plans here, and so I think it's important. Some of these I have been, very involved with. When I was on the San Diego County Water Authority, the Urban Water Management Plan, but also the Extreme Heat Resiliency Action Plan. That's been like years in the making, even though it says 2025, it's been years in the making. I would like for when we are rolling out some of these efforts, that we directly, when we talk about them on the website, on social media, anytime we communicate with them, something from these plans, that we tie it back to the plan so people know that it's coming from a plan, that it's not something spontaneous that we're working on, but this is actually part of the work plan that has been years in the making, right? So we're doing something around, for example, the Urban Forestry Management Plan. That also ties into the Extreme Heat Resilience Plan, right? And how we're not just planting trees because, we like trees. We do love trees, and I love trees. But it's also tied to this Urban Forestry Management Plan. It's also tied to our Climate Action Plan. It's also tied to our Extreme Heat Resilience Plan. So pointing back to those plans so that our residents know, hey, we're very thoughtful, and we have staff working on all these things, right? So I want to make sure people know that there's so much work happening behind the scenes that they might not know, and there's all these important documents that guide the work and the vision of the city. So just naming them when those kind of projects come forward, I would like to see that. And then if we can go to page 10. And then just on these 5 master plans, I definitely would say for me, obviously there's 5, and we're probably going to touch on all of them, but if we had to say which ones to work on first, I would, we talked about parks, trails, and open space. Another one is the stormwater and drainage. That, again, that's since '95. One of the things that I would like us to do more around is, sometimes we have these outlier rain events with flooding, and in my district, especially around the Flower Streets, Beach Street, by the Mission Park neighborhood where I live, there is flooding there often. And so I would like us to also prioritize stormwater and drainage, as well as transportation, which it's already kind of being prioritized but I wanted to name it for this document. So for me, the top 3 of this is stormwater and drainage, transportation, which we've been talking about, and that's a new priority that we've added, and the parks, trails, and open space. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can clarify, we will 100% take this back to the consulting teams and share this with the bidders. All of these plans would be running concurrently. in order for us to maintain this schedule. So from a staff standpoint, we're running with all of them all at once, but we will take that in under belt for sure, that these are priorities. Thank you.
It's been a long time, and I'm glad that we have the bandwidth to be able to do this. Thank you for taking the time to present it in a concise way, very understandable for such a huge amount of information that's so impactful. I think the decision or the direction that we provided, I think it's key and very important for our community here. So anyway, thank you very much. I look forward to begin to get these reports, information out, and as Councilmember Martinez mentioned, making sure that the community is aware of what is it, the different things that, what is important, and what do they mean. Thank you.
Okay, do you have everything you need from us?
We do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. For future agenda, I would like to request a resolution in opposition, as well as a very short presentation on Prop 44, which requires community health clinics to spend 90% of their revenue on program services. This was requested by Neighborhood Healthcare, who was happy to explain why that is a very challenging proposition. But I'd like to request that we take up a resolution to oppose it and get a short presentation from Neighborhood Healthcare. Perfect, thank you. Does anybody have anything else?
I do. I'd like to have placed on the agenda a presentation from somebody from the County of San Diego regarding the, what was it, the quarter cent tax increase that's going to be on the ballot. So I'd like to see why they want more of our money, where it's going to go, and it doesn't look like it's coming back to us. So if we could, I don't know if we're able to reach out to the county to see if somebody can come. Okay. Also, for a future agenda item, Chairman Stallings today at the Government Affairs Luncheon gave a presentation on the economic development and the budget, and it was really interesting to see how it really is connected to Escondido, so I'd like to give them an opportunity to also present here, as they do support so many local things such as Cruising Grand, Center for the Arts, and other things that we don't know about, but they really contribute to our economic development. So it's a 10, 15, 20-minute presentation. If I could get a second.
Anybody else? If not, we'll go on to council member subcommittee reports and other reports, and we'll start with Councilmember Martinez.
Okay, sorry, I'm having a brain fog moment, but one thing I will be doing and participating in on Saturday, I'm very excited about it. I this morning took a ride-along tour of the creek trails, and they're still getting things ready for Saturday, but really invite the community to come out to the, on date, behind Neighborhood Healthcare, and to see the creek trail improvements. And it's just so exciting because I remember these conversations before I was even on the council, and it's just exciting to see how so many people in our community, past leaders and our current council and just staff and community have contributed to this. So it's going to be amazing. They're going to have a photo booth, activities. It'll be a ribbon cutting. I know we're all going to be there. So come out. It's at 9 a.m. and bring, and they've opened it up to the neighborhood too. So there's now all these entry points where the neighborhood can just walk right in. So just really excited about that. And so I will see you there on Saturday. Thank you so much.
Nothing new to report, just thank you to my community for the privilege of serving.
I have no report this evening.
A couple of things to report. North County MANA had an event Saturday at Palomar. This is a nonprofit organization that specializes in supporting and helping young women to have success in life. So it's a wonderful event, a lot of mentorship, a lot of teaching going on. I've supported them over the years. I had the opportunity to be at the Cafecito Network Friday. There were a group of Latino entrepreneurs, a lot of excitement, what can be done, what are the plans, and more to that will be done in the future. That was at the chamber offices. I also had a tour of the Creek Trail today. Really exciting, hundreds of new lights, so it's much more lighted now. Signage was something that a few years back I spoke to after taking a bike ride down. I was having a hard time figuring out where to go. Now I saw a lot of signage. It's great. So come out Saturday at 9 a.m. I think it's going to be wonderful, and look forward to additional improvements that we're looking forward that will happen. Thank you.
Pretty much a couple of the same things that my colleagues participated in, but one thing, I just kind of want to make an announcement regarding the Escondido Fire Safe Council. They just came out with a report. We are getting ready to get into fire season. There was a fire just up in Ramona, so I think this is important. Please reach out to them or go on their website. It is, just firesafecouncil.com, and talks about home hardening, zone 0, defensible spaces, wildfire safe landscaping, resident education, and community planning. If you are a part of an HOA, would you please get a hold of your president? And so Greg Oliver can get the information, go educate the HOAs, because we definitely have a lot of high fire zones in our city. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
City Manager?
Nothing to report.
All right, this meeting is adjourned.